Hello, hello. Welcome everyone joining to The Grind and the Gold. My name is Lashawn Gee. I am the host of this episode. This is episode number 3. And today we have with us Miss Joetta. We want to welcome her. Her partner in crime, Tyrone, will be here momentarily. We'll go ahead and let him in the room when he gets here. I do see people who are still getting their audio together. But if you can, while you're watching today's episode, please make sure that your audio is on mute. And if you will keep your cameras off, we would really appreciate it. And then when we move to Q&A, you can unmute yourself and then you can turn your camera on so we can see all your beautiful faces. All right, so I'm going to start off by first welcoming Miss Joetta to the episode, to The Grind and the Goal. Welcome so much. Thank you for being here with us. I'm going to do a quick intro for Joetta, and then I'm going to have her share a little bit more about herself. So let's pull up these notes right here. So here are the specs first, if you didn't already know. So Joetta is a 4-time Olympian. She's a motivator. She's an author. She's a sports, wellness, and achievement authority. Okay, those are just some specs. And then Joetta is an unstoppable force for good. An inspiring icon, Joetta is the leader we seek today to raise us into a better tomorrow. A fierce competitor on and off the field, Joetta's cross-generational appeal is undeniable. The breadth and depth of her achievements and outreach have inspired countless women to aim higher, reach, and then exceed their potential. This solid foundation of achievement and impact positions Joetta as a relevant inspiration to every woman and an effective ambassador for corporate advocacy and community initiative. Joetta inspires us all to be our own phenomenon. Okay, so that's just a little bit about Miss Joetta. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to start, like I said, I gave the crowd some specs, but tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then why it matters to our topic for today, protecting the mental health of our athletes.
Wow, LaShawn, thank you for that introduction. After hearing all of that, I don't really have much more to say. I will, however, say that I am honored to be on the show, especially a show sponsored by the AAU and also a show that's talking about mental health and wellness and protecting that of athletes. As you heard, I am a 4-time Olympian. I retired in 2000 when I made the last team with my sister, my sister-in-law, and we were all coached by my brother. With that being said, I started running when I was a kid, and by running as a high schooler, I went to college as one of the best in the world for many years. After I retired in 2000, I decided to get a foundation to focus on obesity, life skills, mental health. Even then, we talked about that, and then also the different careers in the opportunity in the sports arena. Being an Olympian and being a champion is important for me to help people maximize their championship ability. And it's not about being an Olympic gold medal list. It's about being a champion of your life and to being the best that you can be and making sure that you have the mental part right, your spiritual part right, and your body right. And if those things are right, you're going to excel. So in a nutshell, that is what I have done. I am the I am the president of Joetta Sports and Beyond. I do a lot of motivational speaking to corporations, women's group, men's groups, colleges, and then I also have a foundation called the Joetta Clark Diggs Sports Foundation. We give out scholarships. We talk about obesity, life skills, and again, it's my goal to make a life difference in the lives of others. So often we're given a platform, and we don't really utilize our ability that God has given us. With my ability as an athlete and as a speaker, it's important for me to make sure that the kids and coming behind me have the right tools that can help them maximize their ability.
It's so just welcoming, warm. It feels amazing to know that women like yourself are out here truly giving back in those ways, mental with advocacy for mental health, advocacy for really protecting and seeing our young people rise to that next level in all areas of their life. Sometimes as athletes, you know, when we're growing up and we are introduced to athletics, we feel like that's all that there is. We play the sport and then that's it. But we forget that, hey, we have to be sure that our mental health is still in check. We have to make sure that we're still academically sound. We still need to make sure that we are giving back to our community, even as young people, so that when we do grow up, we learn what that actually means, because we're going to be a part of that community. So learning, teaching our young people how to give back, empowering our young people to be leaders, and empowering especially women to realize, hey, you're not just your sport, you're not just that thing, that title that you're given, but you're so much more, because just being a woman entails so very much, and we can see by your impact right now. And we didn't get to mention, she also is host of the podcast, the Be Extraordinary podcast.
Yes.
So in addition to all of her advocacy, she also spreads that through her podcast that you can find pretty much everywhere, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Spotify and Apple.
Platforms. Yes. Mm-hmm. So I love that we are in this space. I know growing up, when I was running track, I wasn't really introduced into the whole mental health. Like, my coach wasn't asking me, how are you doing? No, yes. Really, how are you doing? Right. Yes. And so I want to talk about that a little bit, because I know now that is something that you are definitely an advocate for. How was your personal mental health influenced as an athlete during your time as an elite athlete? And yes. Did you see any transition in that as you became a post-elite athlete?
Well, that's a good question, because really, when I was a kid, this is all relatively new. When I say I could start around 20 years ago and getting speed over the years. So where we are now having a conversation and a show about it. When I was a kid, when I was 10, 11, 12, 13 in high school and college, mental health wasn't really something we talked about. That was an area of discussion. You pretty much just went to practice, you went to school, you dealt with it. You didn't really discuss it. Every now and then in college, might have had somebody, but most of the times you were let out there to fend for yourself. And then the coaches could not do that either. So it was difficult for everything to work out that way. We just had somebody walk in here. So hold on. All right. So we have someone walk in here for the show. Caught me off guard. I got to get a chair and stuff like that.
No, I'm good. I'm going to do this for
Well, hold on. So basically, what happened was I wasn't able to figure out what was going on. The only thing I could say was that it was difficult, and I didn't like not being able to talk to anybody. But as a champion, as someone that was going to be successful, I just had to deal with it. There was no one to talk to. There were no excuses. You just figure it out. And I think there was some good with that. And then again, there was some bad with that. But we just didn't know. So figuring out was something that we just did. And that was just an amazing opportunity for me to see the difference in life and the difference in growing up, knowing that you got to finish this, you got to do this, but you need help sometimes. And I just didn't have the help. I just figured it out. And then when you did talk to someone, it wasn't someone that was an authority in the area of mental health. It was a friend. It was, one of your teammates that was struggling too. So I'm going to have you introduce this person who just walked in here. Hold on 1 second. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay.
And while Miss Joetta is taking a moment the person who has walked into the room to have a seat with us tonight is the other part of the dynamic duo of Joetta and Tyrone. Tyrone, I'm going to introduce you just a little bit, give some specs about who you are, and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit more. So Tyrone is a retired firefighter. He's a sports, mental, and purpose coach. He's also a safety instructor. He retired, I believe we said, did we say, was it 70 years ago that you told me that you've been retired now?
This September will be 8.
Yes, so going on 8 years. He is a coach. He actually coaches, very integral in coaching Joetta's daughter, Talitha Diggs. If you don't know, she is most recently NCAA champion in the 400-meter dash. And he is also a part of the Be Extraordinary podcast. He's co-host of the Be Extraordinary podcast. They also own, I didn't say this earlier, Joetta Fitness. So Joetta Fitness is based on sound principles and unwavering commitment to impact an entire generation. They empower professionals, innovators, entrepreneurs, and students to pursue their passions and leadership. Joetta Fitness promotes fitness, academic excellence, and raises self-esteem. And ultimately, they empower and transform children's lives by implementing health, wellness, and safety initiatives. The program is designed for students and children, schools, universities, businesses, and organizations. The desired outcome of the program includes better wellness and fitness, increased confidence, improved self-esteem, and leadership skills. So as renowned business leaders and elite competitors, Joetta Fitness founders Joetta and Tyrone have more than 50 years of experience in the field of sports, empowerment, confidence, health, wellness, fire rescue, safety, and education. So for all of you joining us tonight, you are sitting amongst greats, okay? You're sitting amongst some very, very great, amazing people. So Tyrone, I said a little bit about you, but tell us a little bit. I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Miss Joetta. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then why that matters to the community that you serve.
Okay, who I am is right now in the presence of Miss Joetta Clark Diggs, which is my bestest friend. And let me just go back maybe 2 hours ago. My cell phone was lost. I go to the Apple store to try to get a new cell phone. They're asking me to do all of these things. I can't do it. I jump on the highway to get out here. Next thing I know, traffic through the roof. And now I'm saying, I don't have a phone to call her. I'm stuck in traffic. I gotta get there. So when I say that we make things happen, that's who I am. I did 25 years of fighting fires in the Newark Fire Department. My last 4 years was special operations, in which I was a part of the Urban Search and Rescue Team, USAR. I was a part of the Swift Water Team, the Dive Water Team, the Boat Team, the Repel Team that would have to repel and rescue people from the buildings. So I was a part of a lot of different teams. But before that, coming on the fire department, I ran track in high school, was probably fast enough to get a college scholarship. Then I went to Lincoln University, did well, became an All-American there. And after that, I started my coaching. I was just telling Joetta, I just started coaching in '89, the same year I became a firefighter. So everything worked out together.
And you know what, that speaks to a testament about mental stress and mental capacity. Mm-hmm. Even though we're talking about student athletes, with all that he had going on, if he didn't have the wherewithal to have controlled chaos, then he wouldn't be able to get here and do what he's supposed to do. And I think as athletes and as people, so often you have the breakdown when things aren't going your way. And to hear that story, as I told you earlier, I knew something happened because he's not usually not where he's supposed to be, especially something as important as this. And for student athletes and people out there that go through mental stress or going through situations, it's important to take a breath back and to reassess the situation as opposed to panicking and then not getting anything achieved.
Right.
And I just want to be here with Joetta because I could have just got on the laptop and been on this site, but I kept saying, you know what? You got an hour and 15 minutes. That hour and 15 minutes
Turned into 2 hours.
turned into almost, and I said, get there, get there, get there. So that's who I am. Who I am is I'm dedicated, I'm loyal, and I'm 99.9% on time. But I'm the type of a guy that I'm the first one in. We always say different things like, do you have leaders? Do you have people that's going to control the situation? And I've been doing that type of job for a long time, working to control chaos. And that's what I tried to teach some of the athletes that when I coached at the Jaguars track team, which they start the same thing at 6 to 18, like the AAUs. And I had the little kids. I had the 6 to the 12.
Okay.
And just to walk them through basic steps of, let's try to walk, see how you walk first before you try to run. I would make them walk on the line, jog on the line, run on the line, the straight line. Just little things, put little hurdles up, make them step over hurdles. So I did everything in a uniform fashion for them before we even started running. We had fun. Okay, and right now in this stage of my life, I'm enjoying watching some of the athletes that I've trained or coached or mentored. Some of them were doctors, lawyers. Some of them have babies and invite me to the weddings and all of these things. So my life has come full circle and I'm just enjoying it.
I love it. I love it. And then the question that I asked Joetta also, because being an athlete, being a firefighter, control chaos, how was your mental health influenced as an athlete, as a firefighter, during that time of between growing up, becoming an athlete, and then also like meshing that with coaching and being a firefighter? Did you have conversations in your groups when you were growing up about mental health? Did your coaches really feed that into you, checking in on you? And if they did or didn't, how do you infuse that with the kids that you serve?
Back then, it was just so much going on. My coach in high school, my first 3 years, he was a science teacher. So he was just used to having a lot of kids talking about, these systems and this air and all of this stuff. So by the time he got to us, it was, let's go screaming, yelling, hollering, to try to get us back together because we had a lot of energy. A lot of times when school is out, you really want to go home, play and do whatever. And he's trying to get us together. So I think the noise in my head, maybe the first 2 years was just overwhelming because my friends was telling me things and the coach is telling me things and I'm trying to remember things. By the time I became a junior, I kind of blocked a lot of things out and my ritual started to be meditation, sit down, go over there, watch other people instead of being in that, bubble. And that's what happened to me and it worked for me. And a lot of times people always say, where's Tyrone? Look, he's over there. My legs could be up or I could be doing something, but I distanced myself from things because I couldn't work under that chaotic situation. It's too much going on, screaming, yelling, hollering. I mean, yelling for winning and stuff is different, but I needed to get away. So by my junior year, it worked for me. And then my senior year, it really worked for me. I actually transferred schools from Shabazz to Westside. So I only had 3 classes. So most of the time I was out of school by 11. So I had a lot of time to, go over my homework, finish my homework, do my stuff. And I did really good in that aspect. And I would go to track practice early and just sit there and wait for everybody else to come. I think that helped me out more now thinking about it than when I did it.
That could be like your mental preparation in a way, right?
I just never knew that. Yes.
Right. That was the way people, get prepared for situations differently. And for him, it was to be quiet. They had the quiet time and they get there early. So that was one way, not knowing that's what it was then, what we call it now. He was mentally preparing himself for the track and for schoolwork. So that was, that's something that came about. You just didn't even know. For me, I look at the kids now and I make sure that as parents too, I'm on the flip side as well, but it's important for me to let them know that there's nothing wrong for having these thoughts that you're having and, not wanting to compete, not thinking you're ready. So-and-so's better than you, someone's getting more attention than you. Your parents are having problems, whatever it is, all the things are important, but you have to have someone to talk to. And I think now I know the importance of making sure they have someone to talk to. And as adults and coaches and mentors, we have to make sure, and as parents, that we are available to listen to our kids and then talk to them. We always say, speak loud enough, speak quiet enough so they'll listen. But it was speak loud enough so they would hear you, but quiet enough so they can listen to you as well. So often as parents, we always give them that aggressiveness or yelling at them. There's a point where you have to take a step back and let them talk and then not respond to what they're saying, but listen to them. And a lot of times when you do that, you talk them through a situation because you're listening and not responding.
Yes. And one good thing that I did observe with me is my mom showed that my mother and father came to every meet. All my siblings did sports. My brother, my sister, or my two sisters. So it was a family affair. So when I would go over to the bench, especially outdoors, and see my mom and my dad did, have a little lunch for me or whatever, say good luck or whatever, I saw that. So I tried to do the same thing when I started to coach at the Jaguars track club. The family atmosphere, even when kids didn't have a parent there, I would step in to be that parent. I would, give them that pep talk or have extra stuff in my bag or give them a little stretch or whatever I had to do, and they seem to gravitate to that part because track and field is totally different from a lot of different sports.
Right.
It's a special sport.
We're biased, right? We think it's special.
No, it's special. It's just special.
We are the ones who love our sport the most. And so we're going to advocate for our sport. There's so many people who I've learned over the years that don't know a lot about track. They see a couple of races, but they don't realize it's a whole conglomerate of events and on the track, in the field, sometimes away from the stadium when you're talking about throwing events. And I love what you said about making sure that even if an athlete doesn't have their parents there, that they have someone and even something to hold on to while they're there. That is a part of increasing that healthy mindset of an athlete, that belonging, that inclusiveness. It's something that we can teach our young people from, first introduction to sports is, your parents may be able to be involved heavily. They may not be able to be involved at all, but giving them that opportunity to say, oh, someone is watching me. I'm not out here by myself. There's someone supporting me. I think that's the start of the introduction of how we can really keep these kids, one, engaged while they're at their competition and keep them in high spirits. Because, as we all know, with AAU, there is something going on all the time. Those meets,
yes,
we all are track family. Those meets can go and go and go, and sometimes you can lose focus. And I think it's so important to make sure that our kids know, hey, yes, you're competing at this time, but we still need you front and center focused. We still, we still hear you, we still see you, we're still here for you. So while we're talking about the AAU organization and the crazy amount of meets and the crazy amount of hours that we all have spent, how has the AAU organization influenced your lives? Because I know you both competed in AAU competition as well as your kids. How has the AAU organization influenced your lives as well as your kids' lives?
Can we take it?
Yes, Mr. Weather.
Well, let me tell you, I grew up in the AAU, and for women, this is so important because this is the 50th year of Title IX. So although we could run track, there weren't that many sports for women, other sports, and different events. But luckily for me, the 800 meters was around then, and I could do that. So I would go to the AAU meets, and I ran really well. And it was more than the competition. You met friends that you later you became friendly with in college. And then you had the opportunity to travel because those meets were always somewhere, hosted somewhere.
Yes.
So my father and mother would take me to these meets. We would do a project and we go sightseeing and then compete. I say all of that because the AAU was on the forefront of all of this, and they understood that kids needed an outlet, somewhere to go, families. And over the years, you've seen it grow to a pretty much like a carnival atmosphere.
Mhm.
But for me, competing against AAU athletes, I knew that I was running against the best.
Right.
And I didn't have anyone saying, Joetta, you were the best, so don't worry about them. You can beat them. It was like, just go out there. And I wasn't really training. Some of these kids were really
Yes.
training back then. I wasn't doing all that kind of training, but I still ran really well. But that was my first time and first experience running against other people outside New Jersey that came from all over the country to run against me in AAU. So I'm very thankful for those opportunities to run against the different athletes. But I also met friends and I grew. And so when we talk about going through college, high school specifically, I did some AAU running, then college you didn't do it. But when I look at what I learned that there are adults and people that care for you. And then they put these meets on for you.
Yes.
You may not come in first, second, and third, but you have the opportunity to showcase your ability. And back then we didn't have Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. So everything wasn't up instantaneously. And I think now when you look at how things have changed, the one thing that's constant is that the AU puts on a really great meet. Parents are there, kids are there, and it's we're a family, and that doesn't change.
I love it.
You like that?
Yes.
Look at
And
that.
I know that like I said earlier, Tyrone, you have been pretty instrumental in the life of your goddaughter, Talitha Diggs, who is the daughter of Joetta. How has it been seeing her come up through AAU track and the shifts and changes that you've noticed as a coach?
Let me say one thing before he jumps in, because this is important. When she started running AAU, you have the different divisions. You have the elite, emerging elite, and then the open. And when she was
emerging elite and championship,
right? And I wanted to put her in all the emerging elite because she was new at it. I didn't want her to get her feathers. I didn't want her to not win and not do well. And then mentally, I'm going to bring her out of that. However, I'll let him go from that point on.
So what happened was, like Joetta said, she wanted her to stay in that bracket, 11, 12, 13, 14, or just emerging elite. That means you're emerging to get to the elite status. But I wind up seeing a little different spin on Talitha. I started to see that she was fast. And I said, okay, if I could play with her and give her these certain type of drills and hone into her speed, she'll be on the other side of the emerging elite. She'd have been a championship bracket. So I remember before we went down there, I had to finish, put your time down and submit it to go to North Carolina. So Joetta says, well, you know what? You should put her in the 200-meter emerging elite and let her win it. Soon as she said the word, let her win it, I said, so if you win, in my head, if you win emerging elite, you're pretty much ready for the championship, right? Because if you're a girl and you run 24 flat in emerging elite, 24 flat makes it to the final in the championships. That's what I was doing. She had just ran 24, 1 or 2. So I said, no, we're going to put it in the championship and like that. So that's where Talitha started to realize who she was, because running age group track, AAU, you run in your group, 12, 11, 12, 13, 14. And she's beating them. So when you get to high school, you're not running against them. You could be a freshman in high school running against a senior every day. So you're 14, they're 18. So I said, you know what, let me introduce her right now so she gets started. She goes down there, makes it to the finals, gets 5th overall, and gets a Burger King hat. And that was one of the happiest times she ever had.
He called it a Burger King hat.
Because that what they give you a Burger King hat, you sit on the thing, they give you the medal. She was so elated and happy. And right then and there, I said, okay, she's going to trust me from that point on.
And that goes to the mental part, because mentally as a parent, I'm protecting her, saying, no, you I don't want you to run. I don't know. I don't have enough confidence in you to be with the bigger girls. And I don't know what your mental state is like to handle a loss because she's never handled a loss.
Yes. Yeah.
On the other hand, as the coach, he was saying she's ready and trust me because I wouldn't put you in that. So the relationship between the two of them became stronger. And as a parent, it's hard to let go, but you have to let go because it kicks in. What happens if they're upset? If they don't win, if they don't get a medal, they have to come home. I got to, and it's so much. And not having the skills to deal with that, and having a daughter who is, a good athlete, but doesn't want to listen to me. It's okay, parents, to have someone else say the same thing that you say because they're going to listen. But you have to make sure that you're on the same page mentally and walk them through that. And the person that is giving them the advice, you have to make sure that they're sound as well, because you want to make sure that they're putting positive information and helping them through a situation and not letting it just go over and over to a point where you can't bring them back.
And it was just so refreshing to me to see that the top 8 make it to the final, and you came in 7th to make to the final, but then you took 5th in the final. And from that point on, I said, she's not going to be scared of these girls. Everybody that was in her race that day, she beat everybody since then. Nobody's ever come out of that race. And they've gone to school, really good girls. Thelma Davies, she was #1 in PA. She's caught every single one of them.
Yes.
The confidence is she's there now.
I love it. And I hope, audience, that you really caught that, the importance of, as a parent of an athlete, of a young athlete, wanting to protect their emotional capacity for wins and losses, but then also putting trust into their coach. And if you're doing double duty and you're playing parent and coach, you have to understand there's a fine line that you can definitely straddle when it comes to imbalance, when it comes to knowing that your child is going to face loss, they're going to face failure, they're going to face things that hurt them, but you being confident in your own coaching abilities, or putting your confidence and trust into their coach, realizing that, hey, this coach, they may see things that I don't see. Or when you have your coach hat on, you have to see things from the coaching aspect that your athlete may not see and may not even be ready to see. But it's an exchange of trust. Okay, it's an exchange of trust. And that's one thing that I really do like about the AAU organization and the age group aspect. And the meet that they're talking about in Greensboro, they used to host New Balance National Outdoor Competition. AAU has had their Junior Olympic competition in Greensboro. That competition is back in Greensboro. The Junior Olympic Championships is back in Greensboro at the end of July, if I'm not mistaken. And I am one of the announcers there, so I get to see it from the announcer perspective. I get to see it from a coach's perspective, being a former coach. I get to see it from an athlete's perspective, from a former athlete's perspective, seeing these age groups. You see them for years and years and years, and that's the longevity and the camaraderie of AAU. They provide this ecosystem, if you will, of building trust. The athletes get to trust their coaches. The parents get to trust the coaches and trust that their athletes are matriculating through a program, through a whole entire ecosystem of track and field that is encompassing welcoming, encompassing warmth, encompassing family, and encompassing competition. Okay, that's one thing that we want to always remember. They are still competing, but they get this opportunity to build leadership skills, to build independence, because as we all know, these meets are huge sometimes.
Lashawn, can I say something too that I think is really important? Because We're talking about someone that's doing well and had the guidance, and had a coach, had a mother who understood and could help her. But there's so many other parents out there and kids out there that don't have the guidance, and they go into a spiraling depression when you were really good and then you're not performing well, or you think you're better than what you really are. You have all this outside force and outside pressure.
Yes.
So I think that it's important for you to, as parents, not to live out your accomplishments and your wishes through your kids. And just because you had your time, and so it's their time now, and it's important for you to put that extra stress on them. And I know that as parents, you want to talk to them and you want them to be, on point. But what happens when you have, and Tyrone can talk to this point, when you have the kid that is having struggling, that's in a slump, and talk about mental depression. I know from my point of view, when I wasn't running well, and I was seeing my sister-in-law come in my event, set the American record, seeing my sister run well, seeing some of my friends getting these big contracts and I'm not getting them, that could really affect you. And the only reason I was able to make it for the grace of God, but my parents were really strict. So I knew that I couldn't fail. I had to keep trying, but everyone doesn't have that fortitude. So, I don't know, he knows what to do and what he can say to parents that have that situation going on. Their kid is being depressed.
Oh yeah. I've actually seen it last couple of years with a lot of different athletes in different sports, because to get to the pinnacle of your career, or this was happening in high school a lot. You having state champions from each state come. You're turning around and saying, I got 4 girls from different states to come and run the 400 meters on this relay or open. Who's going to make it? Who's going to be an alternate? Who's going to be the leader? All of these things. And they might be all freshmen. So a lot of times it's up to the coach, the coaching staff, and the psychologist or psychiatrist that's on a team to keep them grounded. Because I always used to tell Talitha, I wanted you to make you the best in your city first, then your county, then your state, then across the country. So that's what it was. So when you go to school, don't just think you're just going to jump out there and be, number 1 in the country. Just try to be the number 1 on your team first, number 1 in Florida, and then number 1 in the country. And when she got it in her head, I remember coming back indoors and we got to see her run this time because it wasn't COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And my whole thing was to her, this is a different year. Last year, you made it to the final, you took 3rd. This year, it's a lot of girls running well. Your job is to do whatever you got to do to get to that final. She did whatever she had to do, and she came number 8. She just made it to the final. My job was to just get you there. She ran a 52, but I didn't care how she got there. I knew the next day I was going to get her right.
And can you tell them the steps that you didn't make? There's so many steps that you have to go through.
Oh my God.
Mentally, and you have to know your athlete. You have to know your child, because each person needs a different thing. But you have to, and we don't have the degrees. We don't have the degree psychology and psychologist. So that's not what we are. However, we still have some experience. And I think that a lot of times if you don't have the experience, you have to go seek it. But in his case, for his athlete, he has the experience. But if he doesn't, he's not afraid to ask. And a lot of coaches don't want to ask, and they try and give their kids something to get out of a spiral. Yeah. And they don't have the answer. For Talitha at Nationals, he had the answer.
I mean, it was almost one of them things, 0.2 of a second, you're not in the final. Right. And you were on the podium the year before, and you were SEC champ the year before. So that was been devastating. So to make it, I don't care how you made it. And guess what? You're on lane 3. You're in a bad lane. But I didn't care about any of that. We started all over. And when I sat down to her and I said, you know what's inside of you? I said, the champion is inside of you. I said, champions, they come ready to run. They come ready to compete. They show up when the gun goes off. So I said, don't let anybody she says this, have noise around you. The
Mhm.
noise is, get her,
Yeah.
pass her, pick it up. I said, don't block out all the noise. When the gun goes off, when you get into your rhythm, you feel that you're running well, you make the decision. And she went from 8th to 1st. And that made me so happy because it took for her to really realize who she was, what she was, and how she was going to compete to become champion. You know, a lot of people get to the final, they're content. I made it to the final. I got points for my team. Oh, well, if I don't win, I don't win. But no, we're going out here and win this race.
I
And then,
love it. And it's such
and
a,
noise,
a testament to, it's a testament to feeding that mindset, healthy actions. It's not about forcing them to win. It's not about forcing them, you have to do this, you have to do this. It's instilling that trust in them, to have trust in themselves, to have confidence in themselves. These are aspects of mental health that we don't always get to see in our athletes.
Oh, yeah.
We see our athletes competing, but we don't know if they're taking it in or not
right?
until they're out there on that
Yeah.
field. And you know, I mean, yes, kids still have emotions. We all still have emotions that go all over the place, but it's how you handle yourself when you're out there, when you're in the midst of that competition, how you handle yourself at the end of that competition, or even
That's
from
right.
event to event.
Yes.
And just like you said, having her block out those distractions, having her remember, I love that you said it first, who she is,
Yes.
having her remember who she is and what she's there to do. I coach and teach and facilitate workshops and programs for female athletes that, I mean, you wouldn't believe how many thoughts. I mean, we have 60,000 thoughts a day that go through our heads just as human beings. But as a young person, having the stresses of peer pressure, of social media, of parents, of friends, of family members, and then you have this crowd of people that you don't even know that you're competing in front of, sometimes thousands of people, being able to zero in and have them focus in. People don't realize that that's partly meditation.
Yeah.
That you
Mhm.
teach them, and bringing that all to this one moment, you know, being able to bring it all into one moment. It's so important to be able to have an athlete, to be able to have that person or people, support system, to be able to instill that in them. So I commend you enormously.
And he
Thank you.
talked about noise, and we say noise is never give up. It's the acronym: never give up, be optimistic, keep the intensity, have staying power, and then execute. And then we talk about, you said focus. We always say follow one course until successful. So those are some of the acronyms that we use for kids. Again, noise is never give up, be optimistic, keep the intensity, have staying power, and execute. And I think that even, well, you say the noise, you know, the distraction,
Mhm.
if you use those words, it'll help you focus in. And then focus, follow one course until successful. I mean, there are many ways to handle a situation, but we have to find out what's best for you. And I think a lot of times with the gymnasts and some other people that you saw this summer with the mental stress, and you go, what do they have to be stressful about? They got all this money, they have all these medals, and they have all this stuff. It doesn't matter if you have medals, if you don't have medals. Mental health, mental stress
Yeah.
is real. And there are different ways that people process it. We're saying, why is she upset? She has, you know, these medals and she can do this, and she can go here, she does that. And then you see the other person saying, why are they upset? Because, you know, at least they're at the track meet, they have the opportunity to compete. But you can't put yourself in their shoes. What you can do, however, is try and help them and listen to them and help guide them through wherever they are.
Yeah.
Right.
Joetta always says consistency. When I hear that word, you don't have to be on point all the time, but you got to be consistent in your approach, whatever it is. If you have to get up at 6:30 during race day and it worked for you when you won the championship, get up at 6:30 on that day. Get your pre-meditation going on, eat your food, relax, do whatever. 8 o'clock, eat, and then go back to sleep and get ready because you don't run at 5 o'clock. But when I stay consistent, my consistency, Joetta always say that to me, is based on when I put my feet on the ground. As soon as I touch down, that's when I'm ready to go. If I'm not ready to go, sometimes I'm laying in the bed, I'm looking, I'm thinking, I'm saying, Dad, what I gotta do today? But as soon as I do that, I'm ready. I'm going, you know what? Time to go. You know, so I already did build this little ritual for me to get my day going. She said it to me today, and I say it to her all the time. She said, today is a good day.
Today is a good day to have a great day.
Yes. And by her saying that, it never, losing my phone, not knowing where it is, didn't stop my good day. I said, it's still a good day. The sun was out. I said, it's 70 degrees. I said, what the heck? It's still a good day. Let me take this ride. I'm riding up the PA, and I'm like, it's still a great day. I'm like, I'm smiling. I'm good. So I don't let moments or little things like stop the blessings that's coming my way, because even being on with you is a blessing. Every time I meet somebody new and I get to go back and forth with them and learn a little bit about them, it just like makes me feel so good, because I'm going to see them again, either in person somewhere, and that's that connection that I love.
And we shared a bunch of pictures. We saw you, didn't know that we would be on the show with you eventually, but we saw you in North Carolina when you were commentating and handing the medals. And I sent you a picture. I said, isn't that you?
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to share some of those pictures with you guys. Also, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share some of those pictures with you. This is pictures of Joetta over the years, pictures of her daughter, pictures of Tyrone in action, in coaching action. Pictures of Tyrone maybe in uniform. We're gonna see. So while we are preparing for that, we're gonna move into a couple things. I would love for you to share with us more about your podcast, the Be Extraordinary podcast. I know I gave a little synopsis of it, but while I'm sharing the screen, I would love for you guys to start telling us more about the Be Extraordinary podcast, where you came up with the idea, when you air, so we can all join in and watch and or listen. And I'm gonna pull up some of those pictures so you can see a little bit of what we're talking about when you hear these stories.
So this is the star for Joetta Fitness, and the podcast is Be Extraordinary. That's the podcast. But you can actually see the J-O, that's Joetta, two letters, and T-Y, mine, and M-E. So Joetta Fitness is what we came up with last April during the pandemic. And we wanted to just turn around and just go meet people out there. Since we couldn't be in their physical presence, we wanted to just jump up and these people, I mean, we got people all over the place, right? Texas, Alabama, all over. So when we get to see them, and the podcast usually airs at 5:30 on Wednesdays. Last year we did almost every Wednesday for the whole year. This year we've done a couple of Wednesdays so far, but we'll pick back up.
And I think that the important thing is mental. Everyone was mentally drained, mentally out of it. And we were
yes.
We brought in great conversation. We brought in leaders, people to help with businesses ideas, health ideas, fitness challenges. Our goal was to help you be extraordinary and to give you information that would help you do that and bring people on the show that will help you do that as well. So we have a great time with that. We get great sponsors to put this on. And I think that when it's all said and done, that says your passion has to be bigger than your fears. And not everyone thinks like that, but it takes a special person to be able to get your athlete or the person to feel like that and really, really get to that point. And there are going to be points in your life when I wanted to quit as an athlete. I wanted to give up. A lot of times, you say, oh gosh, you always were winning. I wasn't always winning. I wasn't always making the money professionally. I wasn't always getting the attention that I thought I deserved and the contract that I thought I deserved. But I hung in there and I talked myself through it with God and friends. But now, today, you have so much you can go through, so many different remedies, so many different breathing techniques, so many different
Yes.
conversations that you can have with people, and specialists that are in that field that can help you. But if you don't know you need the help, and if an adult can't or a coach can't identify it, that's not good. And I'm just really thankful that he's able to identify stuff with Talitha and myself, even now, not competing. There are times when you need help, times when I make a decision that's like, wow, I really shouldn't do that, but that's the best thing for now. And then a lot of times as an adult, you take the hit. So, oh, you showing the pictures on the side? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going through some slides
Yeah.
of some of the pictures that we have, some of the ones that I was able to get uploaded.
Yes. Well, that was the family there, 1, 2,
Yes.
3. We went, that was when my sister Hazel was, yeah, a youngster. Now she's heading things in Bermuda, and Gerald is my sister-in-law in the black over there, and then me with the lighter top on the side. But it's important to be able to have someone to talk to help you through the mental aspect. That's us getting our fit on.
Yeah. Now the basis on the podcast was also matter of fact the first 2 or 3 the whole month of April was based on COVID.
Mhm.
We had a discussion on how did COVID change your life? How did you get through COVID?
Yes.
What did you do during the shutdown? And everything. And I had just come off of COVID. I was hit with COVID December 13th of 2020. And it hit me so hard because me and as first responder, retiring, I've been through a lot of different situations and had a lot of smoke inhalation, and my lungs at times would be, compromised. So, being who I am and doing the things that I usually do, I was doing a lot of food drives for the city of Newark. I was helping, deliver a lot of food and stuff like that, and wind up getting COVID pneumonia. And it hit me, and when it hit me, because I don't have any underlying conditions and I always worked out, I work out like 5 days a week, ride bikes and jump rope and do everything. So I didn't have any underlying conditions, but what it did do for me is it elevated my heart rate. And they put a monitor on me for 30 days to see why nothing else happened to me except my heart would not slow down. So by the time they gave you a couple of medications for 2 or 3 weeks, heart rate went down, monitor came off, and here 2 years later, I haven't taken a pill, had any headaches, no nothing, anything. So I started the podcast based on what did I do to get through that time? Because being a firefighter, a first responder for 25 years, I went in a lot of hot fires. Fires are usually 1100 degrees for me. A basic car fire 300. My body itself was 104 temperature, 145 over 115 blood pressure. Heart rate was 110 at rest. I was literally on fire.
Wow.
So what I did was every day in that hospital for 7, 8 days, I drank almost a half a gallon of ice water. Couldn't eat, lost 20 pounds, but I cooled my whole body off. And that made me come back to normal.
And that's a mental toughness. We're talking about the mental toughness. You have no idea, obviously prayers work, but the mental toughness as to not know how you're going to come out of it. You got people that you're depending on you, and you're not sharing everything, and you have to trust the doctors. But the mindset that this is not going to defeat me, because the minute he left the hospital, it was cold on December 23rd, cold in Jersey. The minute he left the hospital, he bundled up and went out for a walk. It's the mindset. It's the mindset.
I walked 2 miles a day for a month.
In the cold, outside.
Wow.
But that's the mindset. So you have to be able to tap into that special place. And like we say at Joetta Fitness, we meet you where you are. Your mindset as a coach, as a parent, you got to know every kid, every one of your athletes have different mindsets, but you have to be able to tap into it to get the best out of themselves, because they can't do it alone. They're not 50 years old and can have those skill sets. So as being a student athlete, or and being an adult or coach or a parent, you have to be able to tap into that special place that helps them get through a situation, because you have to get through it.
Yeah.
You have to. You just, you have a bad race, you don't get the article that you want or the time that you want. It's okay. You're here to fight another day. Did you leave the meet healthy? No
That's right.
injuries? Yes.
Yeah.
So then you can go back and train, and or go back and try again next time. And whatever mentally you're going through, I always like people to journal, to write stuff down. So if you can't communicate with a coach or another person, or older person, or a friend, if you write it down, you can share that with them, because everybody can't always articulate.
Right, right. I love that. I really love that you, again, we're just passing on information,
Yes.
passing information to young people who may not otherwise get that information. They may be hearing it from their parents, and we all know if you are somebody's child, you have not listened to your parent, but you will listen to this person over here telling you the exact same thing. And that is, it's very important. So it's, if even if you are around young people, if you have children or you are around young people, be sure to ask, how are you doing? Really, how are you doing? That one question alone
That's
is
right.
really part of the most important part of protecting the mental health of these athletes, because some kids feel like they don't have anyone to talk to. Some children feel like they can't talk to anyone. And so they may not be proactive and say, hey, I need to have a talk with you. So
Yes.
being able to be that open space and giving them the space to talk, to ask questions, to feel comfortable talking to us is very, very important from a young age, so that they know that they're not alone in this. I'm going to give everyone an opportunity to ask questions for this series before we close out. If anyone has questions, comments that they would like to put, go ahead and use the raised hand emoji, and I'll call on you to unmute yourself. Or if you don't want to unmute yourself and you just want to ask a question, put it in the chat. I had lots of other pictures. We're gonna see if we can get a little folder of those to add to the YouTube video. That's going to be, this video will be a part of the AAU YouTube channel, so you can go back and watch, and maybe we can get a little folder or something together so that you can see some of the pictures of the greatness, again, that is in front of us. So yes.
If I could say this too, I know it's about to close, and I wrote these down for parents and for adults, and coaches. Encourage your athlete or your kid to talk. Listen with an open mind. Focus on understanding their situation, not making your point. And then address the issue now, because the longer you wait, you can run into greater problems in the future. So those are some points that I think are really important. And then if you look at the signs, that they are under stress, would be sleep, being irritable, losing appetite, low energy, and those are some signs that can show you that someone's under stress. And when you see those signs consistently, I think you need to be able to identify that and talk about it.
And one thing that I always want to stress when it comes to coaching kids at a young age, is vitamins, like nutrition. A lot of times when Talitha would start running, I would always check her vitamin D levels, her iron, see how much protein she had in her system, all these things, because that would let me know how I can train her, because she's tired after a long day of school, and vitamin D deficient or iron is low or something going on, she was sluggish at practice. And when I got her numbers back to normal, everything worked out.
Yes.
And notice we're not talking about weight. We're not talking about demeaning the size of someone. We're not nutritionists, we're not dietitians or doctors, but with the experience and just noticing, taking notice, educating ourselves on the importance of getting those vitamins and vital vitamins and minerals in our system. We're looking at literally how does an athlete look? Do they look sluggish?
Yes.
Do they feel, are they telling you that they feel tired? These are things that you can take notice of and ask, hey, what's going on? Is this something that we can look at, that, we might need to talk to a professional further, or what can we do in the meantime before before anything further, before we do
Yes.
anything further? We do have a couple of comments in the chat. Kim's iPad. Hey, Kim, thank you for joining us today. She said, I just want to thank Joetta and Tyrone for their commitment and dedication to the youth and their families and our community. It is very important for our youth to know that someone cares. This is from Kim Capers. Thank you so much, Kim. And then Evangela Dixon says, thank you both for your time. Can you please repeat the acronym for NOISE?
So noise, yes, I can. So noise is never give up, be optimistic, be intense, have staying power, and execute the plan.
Mhm.
So that's what noise stands for. And focus is follow one course until successful. And I think that, we've been a really great team, and I'm just very thankful for everything that he brings, and the patience and directing to lead, because if it were up to me, she would be running a mile in 800. Sure. That's a fact. I mean, I don't know how well she would do, but that's the she was going. So it's just good that has someone to say, Joy, to step back and let me do what you asked me to do. And it's worked well, even though she's in college now, there's still connections, and that you make sure that things are going smoothly.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Sure.
Absolutely. Kamal, thank you for joining us today. Kamal says, thank you, Tyrone, Joetta, and Lashawn, for an excellent program. Any suggestions that you have to reduce the stigma of seeing a mental health professional?
Wow. I know Dr. Kamar,
Yeah.
he's in that field. He's a doctor
Mhm.
in that field, sports psychologist, I think it is, psychologist. And the stigma basically is, I think, is being released now, because people are now seeing athletes coming forward.
Yeah.
But I think that the stigma is being able to talk about it and say it's okay not to be okay, because there's help out here for you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times before, you couldn't say it's okay not to be okay, because there was no help out there for you. But I think to reduce the stigma, to have people talk about it, one, and then say it's okay not to be okay, because there's help out here for you.
And I see a lot of times people think that they have a situation going on for them to do that. No, that's not right. I remember when I first saw, something in the fire, and it disturbed me. And I'm young. We didn't have critiques then. They didn't talk about it. So I would just, and it went on. So by the time I started to see the devastation and the deaths and everything, I kind of kept it inside and wouldn't let it out, until one day the chief said, you know what, when we get back to the firehouse, we're all going to talk about, what went on, what you saw. And when I was speaking about it right then and there, when it was fresh, it was helping me out more. So it really came out. And the same thing with guys, saying that they scared of fire. They will be scared of fire. They won't let us know, but we could tell by looking at their uniform, because when you unify, you got, burns and everything in their uniform. And so we knew. So at times we would sit down and say, you need to talk to somebody about this and that, and they would be hesitant. But when they started to do it, they found out that they wasn't really scared of fire. They were scared of they were claustrophobic. So they didn't want to go anywhere that was tight.
Yeah.
And it worked for them. So a lot of times we would just try to figure out it's another different problem or underlying problem that's not in that fire right there. So a lot of times these kids that might have a mental block in their head for whatever reason it is, they're blaming it on this, and it might be something else.
And that's why you have to talk and
Mhm.
listen
Mhm.
and be able to analyze. You'll always say you have to analyze something, but you have to first be able to make yourself available to talk, to listen to the kids.
Yeah.
Because even though, look, we were once young and we thought we knew everything, a lot of them are screaming for help, and they put on a tough exterior,
Mhm.
but they just don't know. And if it's okay to tell them as they don't, I don't know, but we can get some help.
I love it. Those are really great suggestions. And Dr. Kamal, I appreciate you asking that question of suggestions on how to reduce the stigma of seeing a mental health professional. Definitely talking to making sure that athletes have someone to talk to and having them realize, hey, if we have this conversation and we get to a certain point and we're at this wall, having them I guess led gracefully into understanding that, hey, seeing someone who is trained to have additional conversation is okay. It's,
Yes.
seeing a mental health professional is not just when things are going wrong. Seeing a mental health professional is about maintenance. It's about keeping your mental health maintained. So even when you're having great days, it's great to go see someone. So really empowering that young person to know, hey, we can go with you to this place, but there's someone else who can take you even further. There's someone else who can help you break that ceiling that you're getting to, and having that limiting belief that you're crazy. I know that especially in the African American community, there is a hard stigma on going to see a mental health professional. And I think now with so many tools that are available, so many resources that are available, shameless plug, I'm kind of that liaison right before you get to the mental health professional. And so what I do is I do have those initial talks and break that initial shell with athletes about finding their identity and making sure that they know, hey, this is who you are and where you are, and let's help you manage where you are now. And if there's additional assistance that we find that we need because there's another block there, hey, I have a friend you can talk to. I would love, Mr. Johnson, Dr. Johnson, if you would email me your information or put it in the chat, and I we can talk. Something that I want to also share with you all, Mondo, the company who creates, the tracks and all of the wonderful facility equipment that we use in track and field, Mondo has a nonprofit organization called Mondo Cares. And this month, either the end of this month or in May, we did a documentary. I did a documentary with them, and that documentary is based around mental health and athletes, and it's called I'm Fine, Not Really. And I'll be putting the trailer up in my social media so that you guys can get a glimpse of what that documentary is going to look like. I'm so excited about it because it's where former athletes have really gotten real about mental health and the transition that it has made from back when we weren't talking about mental health to now, where it is a priority. It's almost a prerequisite to be able to know that if I can tap into my mental health on a regular basis, I know that I can talk to this professional. I know that I can talk to this person, and I know that it's okay. So we said it much, much earlier. It's okay to not be okay. And empowering our young people to understand that is very, very important.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that was well said. I just want to thank the AAU for having the vision and foresight to have this type of forum for us to come on and talk to the audience. We could speak for hours about this topic, and we don't have that time. We look like we've gone over the time as it is now, but it was a pleasure to be on your show for sure.
Yes, thank you so much. I totally appreciate you. Audience, I appreciate you joining us this evening for this episode of The Grind and the Goal. Again, you know, it's the grind and the goal. I call it the grind and the goal because you know what? We all come from a place where we have to work our way up. And sometimes it's a grind, but at the end, there is always gold. As
Yeah.
long as we keep our attitudes positive, as long as we keep our outlooks positive, there is always gold on the other side of that. So we just have to keep going and keep moving. I do want to thank Joetta and Tyrone for joining us today. We've gotten some great gems. Please be sure to, if you missed any part of this, to watch the replay. It'll be posted on AAU's YouTube channel, and I'm sure that AAU will put out a blast when that is going to be available to you. We will see you, I am sure, at another episode of The Grind and the Gold, and we hope that you all have a great evening, and we will see you all later.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.